discovered down a mine, the remains appear to be residue from an artificially produced pre-flood nuclear reaction. India. There are Indian remains which strongly suggest that an atomic war was waged in the distant past, precisely in the region specified in the old records, that is, between the Ganges and the Rajamahal, Rajamahal, Rajamahal Mountains. There are numerous charred ruins which have yet to be explored. Indications are that these ruins were not burned by ordinary fire. In many instances, they appear as huge masses fused together, with deeply pitted surfaces, like tin struck by a stream of molten steel. Further south, in jungle-claimed areas of the Deccan, are more such ruins. The walls have been glazed, corroded, and split by tremendous heat. In some buildings, even the surfaces of the stone furniture have been vitrified, that is, melted and then crystallized. In the same region, a human skeleton was found with radioactivity 50 times that of the surrounding normal level. Now, no natural burning flame or volcanic eruption could have produced such intense heat, or the heat intense enough for this. The heat of millions of degrees, that of thermonuclear reactions, is necessary. And so I'm telling you about the nuclear bomb war in ancient times. Now, it sounds kind of preposterous, but like I said before, let's think about it. You go down here to Alamogordo, New Mexico, where they set off the first atomic bomb, and you look at the ground, and you're going to see a great big pool of glass there. Now, based upon history and based upon what we know and the records, we can all see that this is the result of tremendous heat from a nuclear weapon, which explodes and melts the sand together and forms glass. So when you see that someplace else in the world, then that ought to tell you a little something about, oh, well, that looks kind of like nuclear activity here. And when you take a look in the tombs of the Egyptians and you find radioactivity. Now, I never heard that reported before, because radioactivity was first discovered by a lady by the name of Madame Curie. She may not have been the very first one, but she was right in there. And she did a lot of experiments with radium and radiation, one thing and another. And so the science got launched around 1900 by Madame Curie, on round numbers. In less than 50 years from 1900, we got a nuclear weapon. 45 years later, we got a nuclear weapon. Now, if the Egyptians had radiation, if they had radioactive elements, it shouldn't have taken them more than 50 or 75 or 100 years, give them a little time, to develop a nuclear weapon. Now, right away, somebody's going to say, well, there'd be records of it. There were, and they were destroyed by a number of events, like the Library of Alexandria. I reported that to you last time. And the great libraries around the world have been destroyed by the barbarians. And I want to point out that these great civilizations, like the United States of America, the British Empire, has collapsed in front of your eyeballs. America is about to go next. We're already being overrun by barbarians in Afghanistan and Iraq. We've got the most sophisticated weapons that money can buy in Iran. In Iraq. Iran will be next. Just stand by for the encore. And here are these barbarians running around out here in the desert, for crying out loud, fought us to a standstill. They haven't got a helicopter. And they're about to defeat us. And so, you can sit there with all your nuclear weapons. They all good, are they? The great Roman Empire was overrun by the barbarians. They weren't destroyed by some technologically superior force from China or someplace. They were destroyed by a bunch of loincloth barbarians. That's what's happening in America. We're not being destroyed over here. We're being destroyed on the other side of the world. Now our economy is about to collapse, and America will go the way of the Egyptians and the Romans and the Greeks and the Babylonians and the Syrians and everybody else that's ever gone before us. We haven't learned anything from the histories of the past, and there isn't any reason why our future won't be just about the same as the great civilizations of the past. Now, over in Pakistan, skeletons in the Mohenjo-Daro, that's spelled Mohenjo-Daro. Now, if you're a Pakistani and I murdered that pronunciation, bear with me. I've been dumbed down by my public schools. And Harappa, Harappa, are extremely radioactive. All right, now hang on here, kids. We go over to Pakistan and we find skeletons, and they're extremely radioactive. Where in the hell did the radiation come from? All right, now listen to this. The ruins of these ancient Indus Valley cities are immense. They are thought to have contained well over 1 million people each. Practically nothing is known of their histories except that both were destroyed suddenly. In the Mohenjo-Daro, in an epicenter 150 feet wide, everything was crystallized, fused, or melted. 180 feet from the center, the bricks are melted on one side, indicating a blast. Ancient Indian texts speak of a city's people being given 7 days to get out, a clear warning of total destruction. Excavations down to the street level revealed 44 scattered skeletons, as if doom had come so suddenly they could not get into their houses. All the skeletons were flattened to the ground. A father, mother, and child were found flattened in the street, face down and still holding hands. The skeletons, after thousands of years, are still among the most radioactive that have ever been found, on a par with those of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And when did you hear about that? When you went to college? I didn't either. I didn't go to college, but you'd have thought that that should have been reported, in National Geographic, or Reader's Digest, or on the History Channel, or on Discovery. Now, once in a while, I can't find too much fault with History and Discovery. Once in a while, they'll put on one of these kinds of exposés, and then they just kind of back off and say, well, it's one of those unexplained mysteries they'll just have to look into in the future. And then they go on to something else. And then there's one, and then you'll hear another one, and then there's another one, and they're so disconnected that you can never connect the dots. You never put this together. I never heard about these radioactive skeletons. Hell, if they're radioactive, that tells you somebody had radioactivity there. When was that? Did that occur sometime after Hiroshima and Nagasaki? I never heard of any bombings going on in India, have you? Since World War II? All right, so we're digging this out. Archaeologists are digging these out. Now, somebody should have reported this. And indeed, somebody did. And then somebody buried the report. That's the thing that is so frustrating. And kind of bends your mind around a little bit, and you say, what the hell's all that about? It doesn't fit with the theory of evolution. These are ancient cities. They go back thousands of years. If mankind had nuclear weapons, nuclear technology thousands of years ago, then he was smarter thousands of years ago and got real dumb over a long period of time and is now just recovering from his terminal dumbs. That's what it tells you. Hell, that don't fit with evolution. So it's politically incorrect. And it's academically incorrect, and we're not going to report it. So we're going to bury it. We're going to hide it. Just like that 14-foot skeleton that used to be up there in Chicago. Disappeared. But there's more. Iraq. Melted ruins of a ziggurat structure not far from ancient Babylon. Appears as though fire had struck the tower and split it down to the very foundation. Brickwork was changed to a vitrified state, completely molten. The whole ruin is like a burnt mountain. Even large boulders found in the vicinity of the ruins have been vitrified. What power could have melted the bricks? Nothing but a monster thunderbolt or an atom bomb. Now, here's something else. Did you know that when the first atomic bomb exploded in New Mexico, the desert sand turned to fused green glass? Listen, in Babylonia, in 1947, archaeologists on one site uncovered in succession a layer of agrarian culture, an older layer of herdsman culture, a still older layer of caveman culture, and then they reached another layer of fused green glass. Huh? Hey, I never heard that story. If somebody would have told me 40 or 50 years ago, hey, Gordon, did you know that over in Babylon they found fused green glass in an archaeological ruin, just like they found at Alamogordo, New Mexico, after they set off the first nuclear weapon? I would have said, wow, that means a long time ago someone had nuclear weapons. That means a long time ago they must have had advanced technology. Hey, boys and girls, before you invent nuclear weapons, you got to have some civilization to go along with it for organization, political stability, electricity, and turret lays with metallurgy. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that goes with it. And the more advanced the civilization becomes, we didn't have computers back in 1900 with which to develop skyscrapers. First of all, we had to develop the skyscrapers and the building and engineering technology with slide rules. As time progressed, we got electricity. As time progressed, the electricity turned into machine tools. As machine tools developed, we turned into greater and greater technologies like plastics. Plastics then turned into microtechnologies. Then the microtechnologies turned into electronics technologies, and the electronics technologies turns into computer technologies and so on. Start with computers. Computers are up the food chain quite a ways. Now, they tell us that over the next 15 years, knowledge should double again. That's pretty darn shocking, I'd say. Now, knowledge has been accumulating pretty rapidly. Take a look back here 100 years in 1900. We were pretty good guys. We had electricity, and we had machines, and we had streetcars, and one thing and another. Now, take a look at 100 years later. Quantum leaps forward. I mean, if you compare American civilization today with 100 years ago, it's like those poor jerks back there in 1900 were running around in loincloths by comparison, with bones sticking through their nose. All right, now let's picture 100 years into the future, assuming we could get another 100 years into the future. Knowledge is coming to us exponentially, and we're learning more faster every day. And that's because we got better means for research, better means for developing more and more technology.